Well, hello and welcome. My name is Adrian Hill. I am the host and co-founder of Crux. And today I'm extremely excited and delighted to be joined by someone who has taken a different path to partnerships. He is a reformed architect turned tech maestro, go-to-market expert and advisor to some of the world's fastest growing SaaS startups throughout Silicon Valley. Our guest today is none other than Brian Mahendra Lane, Director of Partnerships at Shorthand. It's great to have you on the show, Brian. Welcome.
Mr. Hill, thank you for having me. This is actually my very first podcast. I tried to spare the world my Kermit the Frog voice, but we'll do it here.
Oh, the world is in for an absolute treat. I can't wait to dive in, and I feel very blessed and honored to be your first. So thank you for that. Now, obviously, we've known each other for a few years, and it's been fantastic from my point of view to see your trajectory and growth throughout the last how long have we known each other? 9 years. But why don't we start at the top and for the listeners at home, share your journey so far.
Yeah, so it was anything but linear. And this I think is common amongst all partnership leaders. When you grow up as a young little boy, you don't think I'm going to be in BD when I grow up. It's some bit of your journey takes you there. So I actually, like you said, I started in architecture, which was crazy rewarding. I broke my parents' hearts and dropped out of architecture school to just build a business. So that was my first time being an entrepreneur. I was a young guy, like maybe starting around 20, and you get in there and suddenly you have crazy accountability. You have to work super hard, and you learn that it's not just the one job you thought it was. It's not just a strategy. It's like bleeding for the company, thinking about the customer first. So it was a really good lesson. And I worked with a near perfectionist, and you see that over and over when you're at these tech startups. 08 hit, went back to school. I went up to Cal Berkeley, and that's right when the gold rush of tech was really taken off. So originally you go to consulting or banking, but then there was this startup environment, and it was this opportunity where if you pushed hard, this was an accelerator. This was like loading a crossbow. And if you wanted it, if you were hungry enough, you could jump way faster than the traditional go to a big corporation path. I got extremely lucky. I was wet behind the ears and annoyed a lot of people, but I just kept asking for more work. And I think the old axiom of you do more than what you're paid for, eventually it flips. So I just said, give me more work. And I barely slept. And this is just what's bred into you with architecture, but this is what you need as an entrepreneur. And learned as fast as I could, worked on the weekends and all that stuff, and seen some just crazy things. So some companies exiting very early, some companies just not making it, and learning from that. Different verticals. And I guess the only common thing about companies I chose was I was really excited. There might have been an opportunity when I first got started. It's your first job, you jump in, there's cool people there. But then after that, this is solving a really important problem that I'm curious about, or it's some sector that I want to learn more about. So we're talking mobile A/B testing, we're talking learning and development. I'm very passionate about that. We're talking fintech because I wanted to learn how that worked. And so jumped around a bit, and it's been incredibly rewarding.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, I've obviously had the privilege of working with you. You're one of the hardest working people I've encountered. Obviously, our early days back at Go One, there was a very heavy grind and some early mornings. But why don't you sort of touch on then how you sort of fell into your space, into the space of channel partnerships, and how you got to where you are today as the Director of Partnerships at Shorthand?
Yeah, great question. So my first gig out of college, I joined as an intern. Then I quickly was on the product team, and I really desperately wanted to learn. I understood how to design and build a product, like actually build it, but I really wanted to understand, how do I take this from that brainstorm that we had over drinks maybe? How do I turn that into a revenue generating engine? And I basically begged until they accepted me into the business development team at my first company. Is an amazing company called Cloud. Had some of the smartest, most hardworking, just talented people on the planet. So all of them are executives at amazing firms now. But they They just saw this annoying kid that wanted to work really hard, and they gave me this opportunity. So that was my first taste of it. We were doing brand partnerships with Fortune 500 companies. I got to build and run their inside sales program. So we were working with just, let's call it General Mills or Procter and Gamble, and partnering with them and doing these crazy campaigns. So we started there, and I really just enjoyed the go-to-market aspect of it. So sometimes it was, maybe I needed to build your sales team first. Maybe I needed to set up your ISPs and your global partnerships. So you kind of do that over and over. And it was important for me, I think, to be really good in partnerships. You can start as a product guy, but you absolutely need to understand the sales process, because then you really understand the value that you're providing both the customers, but also the partners, and how to frame things and get stuff done. And jumped around a little bit. I was running, what my other gig is, I'm a startup advisor. So talking to more advisors,
Yep.
it refers to a goldfish has a really crazy path. Koi fish, they climb waterfalls, and it's really tough. You can see these videos of these wild fish climbing these waterfalls in nature. And the myth is, if they make it to the top, they turn into a dragon. And that's what being in startups is like. So a lot of hands-on experience there. Just people that I work with, just always be humble, always be kind to people, just leave a good impression with these relationships you'll make. So people, brilliant people, way smarter than me, that I went to school with or I worked with, were starting businesses. And maybe they're product guys or tech guys, like they knew how to code it. And they said, Brian, there's a bottleneck. We're not closing deals, or we're not doing this. How do we do that? And so they started tapping me in, and I was flattered that they even would listen to me. So we did that with a couple different products. Some of them are actually pretty well known and are doing great now. So did that over and over. Fast forward to my current role at Shorthand. So we are a content creation platform that takes digital content and it makes it interactive. So as you scroll, the content comes to life, no coding. And it's CMS agnostic. So regardless of how you're hosting your content, WordPress, Drupal, Amazon S3, you build here and you can publish there. Oh. And so when I joined, it was the dark heart of the pandemic. So everyone had COVID. I saw clients losing their businesses because they were getting COVID, almost dying, businesses shutting down, terrifying time. And you were actually running, I guess, revenue over at Shorthand. And you said, look, we need to basically redo the go-to-market. We need to scale this. It's a tiny team. We need to get that revenue engine going. So it came in, built that from scratch. How do we talk about this? What are the real use cases? What are the objections there? Who do we talk to? Why do they want this? That took off. That was wildly successful. We're talking Fortune 500 brands that are whitelisted, and I can't talk about that at compliance, but amazing brands that you know. But it was always in the back of my mind. Look, this is an international team. This has an international bit of buyers, and we need a way that we can make money when we're asleep. We need ways that Shorthand can keep closing deals even when there isn't a rep. And at the time, with the sales process, it was really heavy. There's a large education piece, but I kept seeing these agencies, so channel partners coming in, and they wanted something special, and the system was the models were a little too rigid for their purpose. So I basically started working 2 jobs at once and figured out, how do we make things work for these partners? And I think this is kind of important, because so often people want to build something that doesn't exist. And a CEO's whole job is risk aversion and calculated risk. Yeah. And it helps them a lot if you can get something going and you have a couple bites to prove that they should pump some energy and time into it. Yeah. So start doing that.
So I suppose on that as well, I think, that's a really good point. I think it's something that you've done really well at Shorthand is, we talk about sales and go to market and understanding your ICP. Who are your ideal buyers? I think you've done that really, really well for your partnership strategy and understanding who your ideal partners are. Can you talk us through a little bit more around what sort of partnerships and partners do you focus on at Shorthand?
Yeah, great question. So we have three different partnership departments. So that's our resellers and systems integrators. So think compliance and procurement. You're going to work with, let's say, governments or healthcare, and the compliance is so hairy that you need certified contract vehicles that can serve as a pass-through entity. So you want to work with the federal government, they want your product, but they need the safe, vetted, stamped partner to purchase the product. And so that's one type, and that one's super important. The channel partners. So these are folks that are using your product from a commercial standpoint. So they're maybe doing work with your product and putting it out in the wild, and they have the ear of the user. They might have different use cases. So that's been wonderful and just so exciting to learn about. And then product and technology partners. My company does A, yours does B. We work together. We can do C, D, E, F, and G.
Yeah, fantastic, excellent. And then, so how do you then prioritize? I'm not entirely sure of the makeup of your partnership team. I'm assuming it's just yourself running a fairly lean operation. So how do you then prioritize what partner types or order of setup that you target on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
Yeah, so great assumption. So almost every team I've ever seen to this day, it starts super lean. It's usually one person, one operator. And then you slowly expand. And even in large orgs, BD teams are usually super lean with just special forces level operators. And so right now it's me and the CEO. And it's actually super fun that way. You get in there and do amazing things. The order of operations, so that's super interesting. You're going to feel this intuitively when you're jumping in and you're building partnerships, and it's so general, but it's really, what does the business need right now? What's the constraint? Where are we failing? And that might be, we need to distribute faster. And in shorthand's case, I wanted a way that we could prove revenue first. And there was already a need for it. The market was asking for it. So we started with channel partnerships. Then some of these deals they were just so complex. We either needed to hire like 3 more people and upgrade our infrastructure, or we could partner with a reseller or systems integrator, save the firm about $1.5 million. And it took, deals that would take 3 years, you could get it done in 3 months. With the product and technology partners, strong argument that that's probably what you should be doing first. You should maybe do that initially, right when you start your firm. And that's where's the gap in the product? As you know, when you're trying to sell a really good product, you need to hone in on the solution you're solving as opposed to a jack of all trades. And the more and more specialized you get, you're going to have gaps because you're focusing on solving this one problem. So it might be someone in your distribution chain that can just help you do that. It might be some feature that's going to take your team 2 or 3 years to build. But maybe you can partner with someone that's already spent 10 years and the two of you can do it together. So
Perfect.
that's how I'm weighing that out.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point. It's understanding, what the business needs. It's not just launching into a channel strategy. It's understanding, what are the key outcomes? What do we want to achieve by launching this? So that's a really, really good point, and I'm sure that everyone will get a lot of good tips from that one. How long did it take you? I think the burning question for a lot of partner teams or CEOs looking to launch a new partnership strategy, they'd love a crystal ball to identify how long it's going to take, but how long did it take you to get some real traction with your channel partnership strategy?
So honestly, there was a couple little pilots that we tested, and you're always iterating. You're trying non-scalable things to see what's going to hit, what really works. But once we committed, once we had CEO and board approval, I would say 6 to 8 weeks. It was that fast, and it hasn't slowed down. It's maybe the busiest I've ever been. So sometimes you're doing 4:30 in the morning calls. Sometimes you're doing late calls with APAC. But I wake up excited about what I have going that day. And I might be out with friends and hear something, a kernel in the conversation that gets me excited about work and like makes me think more about how like lit a wildfire about something else we could be doing.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's that's one of your strengths. It's not just, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You're always open to new possibilities, and you don't just limit yourself to a partnership strategy. You are, as you say, a business development professional. You like to develop new streams of business for the organization you're working for. So I think that's a really good tip for those, those new BD professionals coming through the ranks, or channel partnership managers coming through the ranks, is always be vigilant, always listen. It's very similar to a sales process, isn't it? Listen twice as long as you speak. If you could wave a magic wand, what would you do differently next time?
Yeah, so you and I have worked together in the scrappiest of environments, taking advantage of free tools. To this day, we've got Google Sheets going, we've got free versions of Crossbeam, etc. But if I could start over from scratch, it would have been to budget for a integrations engineer from the beginning. I think that's the single greatest starting point you can do with a BD team, and do it early.
So they would be a part of the channel partnership team.
You bet. And it's you working in a pod, and maybe you have that business person, but having this engineer that can just bring on those product partners and make game-changing integrations that are going to take your firm and Nike sign.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent. And, do you have any advice for new channel partner managers or BD professionals coming into the space?
Couple. Okay, so give to get. And I heard some other wonderful partner leaders, some super smart guy. And I really understand that it's provide value first when you're working with these partners. Sometimes some partners can do a lot for you, and if you just come with your hand out and say, help me do this, that's not that appealing. They have their own KPIs to hit, their own just impossible deadlines. If you can provide value first, if you can constantly say, look, we'll do this for you, if you can do this for me, there's so much more incentive to seeing this through and wanting to do it over and over again. And so part of it is when you're setting up an ecosystem, it might be, look, a channel partner is bringing in business to you, but then you might hear customers asking for help to design something, and they need to outsource to one of those channel partners. So doing that both ways, that's a powerful system you have going. I was going to say maybe second one would be metric transparency. So you from the beginning get in there and start documenting, collect crazy bits of data. I think when you and I were working together, you saw me very early create a spreadsheet that rivaled our CRM. And that's something that even, our VP of finance would trust that over our CRM because of the data integrity. You need to be able to, you could get called into a board meeting and you need to know your shit. You need to know conversion rates. You need to know where revenue is coming from, where it's weak. And I think that kind of bleeds into, let's talk about Crux. So you can do that on a Google spreadsheet for so long until it gets out of hand. And when you really start firing it off, you need a system to help you out. You need automation. So that's where you come in.
I appreciate the kind words. Excellent. And is there anything else? Is there any other questions that I should have asked you that I haven't asked you today?
Well, maybe if you're early on and you're thinking about if this is for you, or if you've been in it for a few years and you're like, should I be in partnerships? The profile I've seen is you're the entrepreneurial type. Like, you like starting businesses, you like the grind, you like the stress because you love that glowing opportunity of winning. That's the person that wins in BD. Lifelong learner, so you're always studying. Maybe you're taking YouTube videos while you're eating. And then just super passionate, like love to build, love to work with others.
Yeah, that's a really, really important part. I think it's not just, there's no black and white when launching a new partnership strategy, is there? There is a lot of gray that needs to be manipulated and worked through and iterate, as you said earlier on, different iterations, different go-to-markets. Some work, most don't. It's having the ability to pivot quickly and establish when those things are not working as well as they should be, to go from there. So Look, I think we might wrap it up there, Brian. This has been a fantastic chat. I know I was always really excited. I was really excited to set this chat up with yourself. I'm a huge fan of the work that you've done, what you've been able to achieve over the last 15 years plus in this space. There's a wealth of knowledge. So how would people find you if they wanted to reach out and connect after this?
Please, by all means, reach out on LinkedIn. I found with the partnerships community, there's so much giving back and paying it forward. So if there's something I can do to help, ping me on LinkedIn. I'll get back to you. And thanks for having me. I've very much enjoyed your previous guests. I subscribe to your YouTube channel, and I look forward to your future guests.
Excellent. No, that's fantastic. Yeah, well, I know that the listeners will have picked up a lovely amount of useful gems that they can use in their own sort of partnership strategy. So extremely grateful to have you on the show today, Brian, and I look forward to chatting again soon. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
See you, mate. Bye.
Don't forget to follow Crux PRM on LinkedIn or cruxhq.com to register as a guest.